Target is moving toward the parking lot. Block her car. Do not let her get away. Sergeant Cole Mercer's order came through the radio as Maya Williams left Riverton Plaza and headed directly toward her sedan. She unlocked the driver's door, placed her handbag on the passenger seat, sat down behind the wheel, and inserted the key into the ignition. Before she could move the car, the driver's door was pulled open. Turn off the engine and step out of the vehicle. Officer Noah Bennett, ordered as Officer Daniel Shaw, moved to the passenger side and opened the other door. Both men held their batons where Maya could clearly see them, but neither raised one to strike. Maya removed her hand from the ignition and turned toward Bennett. I'm cooperating. State the legal basis for the stop and show me the authority for the search. Shaw leaned into the passenger side and answered before Bennett could. You don't get to question us right now. I asked for the legal basis of the detention. Step out of the car. Maya removed the key, placed both feet on the pavement, and stood without resisting. Bennett reached for her wrist, but before he could secure it, Mercer approached from behind the patrol vehicles, walked straight to the sedan, and struck the roof once with the side of his baton. Hand over the memory card you just took. Maya turned toward him. Who told you I had a memory card? Mercer paused only briefly before answering. You can answer questions at the station. Maya looked beyond him and noticed how the patrol cars had been positioned. One blocked the quickest exit from the parking area, while another sat at an angle near the curb. The arrangement made it clear that the officers had not reacted to something they had just seen. They had been waiting for her before she ever reached the car. She faced Mercer again. Am I under arrest? You're being detained. For what offense? Possession of confidential property. Who owns the property? Mercer's expression tightened. That's enough questions. Put your hands behind your back. Bennett glanced at him. Sergeant, she's cooperating. I gave you an order. Cuff her. Instead of arguing, Maya turned toward Bennett. Officer Bennett, is your body camera recording? He checked the device mounted on his chest. Yes, ma'am. Keep it recording. Mercer pointed toward her again. Cuff her. Bennett took Maya's wrists, brought them behind her back, and secured the cuffs. She did not pull away or make any sudden movement. I am not resisting, Maya said clearly. Mercer stepped closer. Where's the drive? You still haven't established why you believe I have one. Mercer turned to Bennett. Get the bag. Bennett reached into the car, removed Maya's handbag from the passenger seat, and passed it to Mercer. The sergeant opened it immediately. Maya watched him begin the search. Do you have a warrant to search my property? You can argue procedure later. Then state the legal exception that allows the search. Mercer ignored the question and removed her wallet, notebook, reading glasses, phone, receipt, and keys. He checked the inner pockets, searched the lining, then went through the bag a second time. There was no memory card. His search became quicker and less controlled. Where is it? Maya kept her voice even. Where is what? The drive Rachel Kim gave you. Bennett looked up immediately, and Shaw stopped what he was doing beside the passenger door. Maya said nothing, but Mercer had already revealed more than he intended. Bennett stepped closer. Sergeant, dispatch never mentioned Rachel Kim. Mercer closed the handbag. Dispatch didn't mention a memory card either. Bennett continued. Where did that information come from? This didn't come through dispatch. Then where did it come from? Command. Bennett stopped speaking, but his expression changed. Maya remained focused on Mercer because he had just confirmed that the stop had originated outside the normal dispatch process. Which command office authorized this detention? She asked. Mercer looked toward several shoppers who had stopped near the entrance. We're moving. Shaw glanced toward the mall security office. Are we taking her in there? No. Service entrance. Why not process this here? Too many people. Mercer turned and started toward the side of the building with Maya's handbag in his hand. Bennett took Maya by the arm and guided her after him, while Shaw followed with her keys. As they crossed the parking area, Maya spoke again. Has my handbag been entered into evidence? Mercer did not answer. Has any property been sealed or documented? Keep walking. You searched my property, found nothing, and now you're moving me without logging the detention. Mercer stopped and turned toward her. I said, keep walking. Maya continued without resisting, then looked toward Bennett. Your camera is still running? Yes. Good. Mercer heard the exchange. Stop talking. They reached the service entrance, where Shaw opened the steel door. Maya paused at the threshold and looked directly at Bennett. Officer Bennett, do not turn that camera off. Bennett held her gaze. I won't. Mercer stepped closer. Keep moving. Maya entered the service corridor with her hands still cuffed behind her. Bennett followed, and Shaw closed the door after them. Mercer pointed farther down the hallway. This way. Maya continued walking while reviewing what had already happened. Mercer knew Rachel Kim's name, knew about the memory card before conducting any search, and had officers positioned around her vehicle before she reached it. He had bypassed normal dispatch, searched her property without documenting the alleged evidence, and was now moving her away from the public instead of taking her to the mall security office. She could have changed the entire situation by identifying herself, but she chose not to. Mercer still believed he had detained an ordinary woman with no authority over him, and Maya wanted to know what he would do while he continued to believe that. Ahead of them, Mercer pushed open another door and ordered Bennett to bring her inside. Maya kept walking, and the body camera kept recording. Mercer led them deeper into the service corridor until they reached a small commercial security staging room used by mall staff and delivery contractors. A metal desk stood against one wall, with 2 chairs beside it, and a door leading toward the loading area. Mercer entered first, set Maya's handbag on the desk, and motioned for Bennett to position her near the chair. Sit down. Maya sat without protest, keeping her cuffed hands behind her. Bennett remained a few feet away while Shaw stayed near the door. Mercer placed his baton on the desk beside Maya's handbag, then leaned forward. I'm going to ask you one more time. Where is the memory card? Maya looked at the baton, then back at him. If you believe the card is evidence, create an evidence receipt and identify the case number. You don't get to dictate procedure. I'm not dictating anything. I'm asking you to follow it. Mercer opened the handbag again and searched the inner pockets a 3rd time. When he found nothing, he checked the wallet, examined the notebook, and picked up Maya's keys. Bennett watched him turn the keys over in his hand. Sarge, if we're treating her property as evidence, shouldn't we bag it? Mercer looked at him. Not yet. Why not? Because we haven't recovered what we came for. Maya caught the wording immediately. What you came for. Mercer set the keys down. You heard me. Yes, I did. He moved closer. Rachel Kim handed you a data device inside this mall. That device contains restricted information. Give it to me, and this stays simple. Maya did not answer the demand. Restricted by whom? Mercer stared at her. What agency classified it? No response. What case is it connected to? Stop. What statute are you relying on to seize it? Mercer struck the end of the baton against the metal desk. The sound was sharp, but controlled. Enough. Maya did not flinch. If this is a lawful recovery, document it. Mercer leaned closer. I'm giving you a chance to avoid making this worse. No. You're giving yourself a chance to avoid paperwork. Bennett shifted his attention from Maya to Mercer. Shaw did the same. Mercer picked up the baton but kept it lowered at his side. You think knowing a few procedures makes you untouchable? I haven't said anything about being untouchable. I've asked you to identify the legal basis for what you're doing. You were seen leaving a restricted meeting with information you weren't authorized to possess. Then identify who reported that. That's confidential. Was it Rachel Kim? Mercer's expression did not change. Was it mall management? Still nothing. Or did someone in your department tell you to intercept me before I reached my car? Mercer stepped back. Bennett, stay with her. He walked toward the far end of the room and took out his phone. Maya lowered her eyes for a moment, but she was listening. Bennett stood beside her while Shaw remained near the doorway. Neither man spoke until Mercer moved farther down the adjoining hallway. Then Bennett said quietly, You really should tell him where the drive is. Maya turned toward him. Do you know what's on it? No. Do you know who owns it? No. Do you know why your sergeant wants it? Bennett hesitated. He said it was confidential property. That isn't what I asked. Bennett looked toward Mercer. Maya continued in the same calm tone. You were told to block my vehicle before anyone established that I had committed an offense. Your sergeant knew Rachel Kim's name before the search. He knew about a specific memory card before anyone found one, and now he refuses to create an evidence record. Does that sound normal to you? Bennett did not answer immediately. No, he finally said. Shaw looked at him. No what? No, it doesn't. Mercer was still on the phone several yards away. His voice carried through the corridor in fragments. It's not in the bag. A pause. No, she isn't talking. Another pause. Maya straightened slightly. Mercer turned his back to them, lowering his voice. But Shaw's body camera remained pointed in his direction. I can move her. He listened, then said, yes, before the motorcade arrives. Maya's eyes moved to the wall clock. Bennett noticed. What motorcade? Mercer ended the call and returned before anyone answered. We're transferring her. Bennett frowned. Where? Commercial Evidence Annex. Shaw looked at him. The annex doesn't process detainees. It will today. Who authorized that? Assistant Command. Bennett crossed his arms. Then central booking needs a transport entry. Mercer's patience thinned. No central booking. Maya spoke immediately. Why? Mercer ignored her. Bennett did not. Sarge, if she's detained, we need to log the transfer. I'll handle it. That's not how transport works. Mercer stepped toward him. Officer Bennett, you seem confused about who is giving orders. I know who's giving orders. Then follow them. Maya watched Bennett's expression. He was no longer simply uncomfortable. He was trying to decide whether following Mercer would make him responsible for something he did not understand. Mercer pointed toward Maya. Get her up. Bennett hesitated, then helped Maya stand. She remained cooperative. Mercer gathered her handbag and started toward the door. Maya looked at the desk. You still haven't logged my property. Mercer kept walking. Sergeant, if you move my belongings without sealing them, you break chain of custody. He stopped and turned. You're not in a position to lecture anyone. I'm in exactly the position where procedure matters most. If you empathize with Maya and believe she is right to demand that the law be followed, please like this video. Tell us in the comments where you are watching from, because someone near you may be following Maya's story too. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next powerful stories. Shaw lowered his eyes, but Bennett kept watching Mercer. Mercer looked at both officers. We're leaving now. Bennett glanced toward the red light on his body camera. Mercer noticed. Turn that off. Bennett did not move. I said turn it off. Policy requires continuous recording during detention. Mercer stepped closer. I'm giving you a direct order. Bennett took a breath, then shook his head once. Then put the order on camera, Sarge, because I'm leaving it on. The room went quiet. Mercer stared at him for several seconds before turning toward the door. Fine. Bring her. Maya said nothing as Bennett guided her into the corridor. For the first time since the officers had surrounded her car, one of Mercer's own men had refused to help him erase part of the record. That did not make Bennett an ally yet, but it gave Maya something Mercer had been trying to avoid from the beginning. A witness who was starting to ask the same questions she was. Mercer pushed through the service door and led them into a wider corridor that ran behind the stores toward the loading area. Bennett stayed beside Maya, while Shaw followed several steps behind, carrying her keys. Mercer kept her handbag under his arm without sealing it, labeling it, or recording it as evidence. Maya watched him check his phone again. Sergeant, where exactly are you taking me? Commercial Evidence Annex. You already said that. I'm asking why a detainee is being transported to a facility that doesn't process detainees. Mercer kept walking. You'll find out when we get there. Bennett looked toward him. Sarge, she has a point. If we move her off-site, dispatch needs the destination. Mercer stopped and faced him. I told you I'll handle the transport entry. After we leave? Yes. Bennett shook his head. That's backward. Mercer moved closer. You want to discuss procedure with me in the middle of an operation. I want the location documented before we transport somebody in cuffs. Maya remained silent and let Bennett continue. He had begun asking the questions Mercer had refused to answer since the parking lot. Mercer lowered his voice. You were given an assignment. Complete it. Bennett glanced at Maya, then at his body camera. The camera stays on. Mercer's jaw tightened. but he did not order him to shut it off again. They resumed walking. At the next intersection, Shaw stepped ahead and opened a metal door leading back toward the parking level. Maya could see the rear of the patrol vehicles through the narrow glass panel. She looked at Mercer's hand around her handbag. "You still haven't given me a property receipt. You'll get paperwork later." "For what property?" Mercer did not answer. "The handbag?" Silence. "My phone?" Nothing. "My keys?" Mercer finally turned. "Do you ever stop talking? When somebody gives me a lawful reason to." He stared at her before looking toward Bennett. "Move her." Bennett guided Maya forward. She did not resist, but she was paying attention to every step. Mercer had already bypassed dispatch, searched her belongings without identifying the legal basis, refused to log the property, rejected central booking, and selected a facility that did not normally receive detainees. The pattern was becoming clearer. This was not an investigation built around discovering facts. Mercer already knew what result he needed. As they reached the parking level, Mercer's phone vibrated. He checked the screen and immediately stepped away. Maya slowed. Bennett noticed. "Keep moving, ma'am." "I'm moving." Mercer answered the call in a low voice. "Yes." He listened. "No." She still hasn't given it up. Another pause. Maya turned her head slightly. Mercer walked farther toward the wall, but his voice still carried. "I searched the bag twice." He listened again. "I know what time it is." Shaw glanced at him. Mercer continued. "We're taking her to the annex now." He paused, then lowered his voice, but the next sentence remained audible. "I'll have it handled before the motorcade gets here." Maya's attention shifted to a digital clock mounted above the employee entrance. Bennett looked from the clock to Mercer. "What motorcade?" he asked when Mercer returned. Mercer slid the phone into his pocket. "Not your concern. You just said we're moving a detainee before a motorcade arrives. I think I'm allowed to ask what that means." Mercer pointed toward the patrol car. "Your job is to drive." Shaw stepped closer. "Sergeant, if there's a security movement coming through this entrance, shouldn't we clear it with Central? We don't have time." Maya looked directly at Mercer. "Who are you racing?" He ignored her. "Whoever called you knew I had the drive, knew I was leaving the mall, and now knows a motorcade is coming. That's a lot of information for an ordinary property complaint." Mercer took one step toward her. "You don't know anything about what's happening. Then explain it." "I don't owe you an explanation. You owe one to the cameras." Mercer looked at Bennett's body camera, then at Shaw's. For the first time, he seemed to understand that both officers had continued recording. "Get her in the car." Bennett opened the rear passenger door. Maya stopped beside it. "Before I enter the vehicle, I want the destination stated on camera." Mercer pointed toward the seat. "Commercial evidence, annex, and the legal reason for transporting me there instead of central booking. You're being taken there for further questioning." "Under what authority?" Mercer's voice hardened. "Get in the car." Maya sat down without further resistance. Bennett remained outside with one hand on the open door. "Sarge, I'm not comfortable moving her without a transport entry." Mercer walked to the driver's side. "Then I'll drive." "That doesn't fix the problem." "It fixes mine." Bennett did not move away from the door. Mercer looked across the roof of the patrol car. "Officer Bennett, are you refusing a direct order?" Bennett took a moment before answering. "I'm asking you to document it." "I already told you. I'll do it later." "Then say on camera that you're ordering an off-book transport to the commercial evidence annex before central booking is notified." Mercer stared at him. Shaw remained near the rear quarter panel, his own camera still recording. Maya watched all three men without speaking. The argument no longer belonged to her. Mercer was now being challenged by officers who had entered the parking lot, believing they were following a legitimate order. Mercer finally pointed at Bennett's chest. "You want it documented? Fine. I'm ordering transport to the commercial evidence annex under command authorization. That enough for you?" Bennett answered carefully. "Who in command authorized it?" Mercer opened the driver's door. "Get in." He had avoided the name again. Maya leaned slightly forward from the back seat. "Sergeant Mercer." He looked at her. "You keep saying command, but you won't identify a person, a case number, or a written order. You won't use central booking, and you won't log the property you seized." If this is legitimate, why does every part of it need to happen before someone arrives? Mercer's face tightened. Because I said so. Maya sat back. That answer told her more than he intended. Mercer was not simply trying to recover a memory card. He was working against a deadline, and the person directing him knew enough about city movements to know exactly when that deadline ended. Bennett closed the rear door but did not enter the driver's seat. Mercer looked at the time again. Move. Then, from somewhere beyond the parking entrance, the faint sound of an escort siren carried toward them. Mercer turned toward it immediately. Maya did not. She only looked at the clock and waited. The escort siren grew louder as Mercer moved quickly around the patrol car and looked toward the entrance to the parking area. Bennett, get behind the wheel. Bennett stayed beside the rear door. You just said you were driving. I changed the order. Get in and move the unit. Shaw looked toward the approaching entrance. Sergeant, if a motorcade is coming through here, traffic control may already have the lane locked. Then move before they lock it. Maya sat quietly in the back seat with her hands still cuffed behind her. Mercer's reaction confirmed what she had suspected since hearing his phone call. He knew exactly who was approaching, and getting her away from Riverton Plaza before that arrival mattered to him. Bennett opened the driver's door but did not sit down. Where am I taking her? I already told you. Commercial Evidence Annex. And central booking still hasn't been notified. Mercer stepped closer. We are done discussing that. Bennett glanced at his body camera. Then I need the transport order recorded before I move. Mercer lowered his voice. You are making this harder than it needs to be. No, Sergeant. I'm trying to keep the record straight. Shaw remained beside the vehicle, listening. His camera continued recording. Mercer looked toward the entrance again. Fine. Transport is authorized to the Commercial Evidence Annex. Now get in, Bennett asked. Authorized by whom? Mercer ignored him and reached for the driver's door. Maya leaned forward slightly. You still haven't entered my handbag into evidence. Mercer turned toward the rear window. You were told to stop talking. My phone, keys, wallet, and bag have all been handled during a detention, but none of them have been sealed, inventoried, or receipted. If you leave this parking lot now, that becomes part of the record too. Mercer opened the front door. You think saying, record enough times changes what's happening? No. The cameras do that. His eyes moved toward Bennett's chest, then toward Shaw. Both of you shut those cameras down. Bennett answered immediately. No. Mercer stared at him. Excuse me? Policy requires continuous recording while a detainee is in custody. I'm your supervisor, and the policy still applies. Mercer shifted his attention to Shaw. Turn yours off. Shaw shook his head. If Bennett stays on, mine stays on. For several seconds, Mercer said nothing. He had ordered 3 officers into position, expecting control, but now 2 of those officers were forcing him to create a record he had clearly intended to avoid. The sound of the approaching escort grew stronger. Mercer reached into the patrol car and started the engine himself. Bennett, passenger seat. Shaw, take the second unit. Bennett did not move. We can't pull into an active motorcade route without clearance. We're not joining the motorcade. We're leaving. Through which exit? Mercer pointed toward the far end of the lot. West Service Lane. Shaw looked that direction. That lane feeds into the same access road. Mercer checked his watch. Maya watched him without speaking. The timing was now controlling him. A motorcycle officer entered the parking approach and slowed near the curb. Behind it came a black SUV, followed by 2 more. City vehicles farther back began clearing the lane. Bennett turned toward Mercer. That's the mayor's convoy. I know what it is. Shaw looked at him. How did you know it was coming before we saw it? Mercer did not answer. Maya did. He was told. Mercer turned toward the rear seat. Stay out of this. I'm the person in handcuffs. I'm already in it. The lead motorcycle officer raised one hand, signaling nearby vehicles to remain stationary. Mercer looked toward the west service lane, then at the convoy. He could no longer move the patrol car without drawing attention. Everybody stay where you are, he ordered. Bennett stepped away from the driver's door. That's what I was planning to do. Mercer gave him a hard look but did not respond. The first SUV passed slowly. The second stopped near the main curb in front of Riverton Plaza. A third vehicle pulled in behind it. An aide got out first and checked the entrance. Maya sat upright. Mercer noticed. For the first time, he looked directly at her, as though wondering what connection she might have to the arriving convoy. "You know somebody in there?" he asked. Maya did not answer. Mercer moved toward the rear door. "What's your full name?" She looked at him. "You had plenty of time to ask that before you put me in cuffs. I'm asking now. And now I'm waiting." "For what?" Maya looked past him toward the black SUVs. Mercer followed her line of sight. The rear door of the center vehicle opened. Mayor Rebecca Hayes stepped out. She was dressed for a city event, accompanied by an aide and a security officer. She started toward the mall entrance, then stopped when she saw the patrol cars occupying the curbside area. Her attention moved from Bennett to Shaw, then to Mercer. Finally, she looked through the rear window of the patrol vehicle. Mayor Hayes stopped completely. Bennett noticed her expression and turned toward Maya. Shaw did the same. Mercer stepped forward before the mayor could approach. "Madam Mayor, we're handling a confidential property matter. We'll clear the area in just a moment." Hayes did not look at him. Her eyes remained on Maya. Then she walked directly toward the patrol car. Mercer moved to intercept her. "Ma'am, this is an active detention." Mayor Hayes finally looked at him. "Open the rear door." Mercer hesitated. "I need to explain the situation first." "No." Her voice remained controlled, but Bennett immediately stepped away from the car. Hayes stopped beside the rear passenger window and looked inside again. Maya met her eyes without speaking. The mayor's expression changed from surprise to controlled anger. Mercer tried once more. "Madam Mayor, we received information that this woman was in possession of confidential material, and we were preparing to transport her for questioning." Hayes turned slowly toward him. "Where?" "Commercial Evidence Annex." The mayor looked at Bennett. "Does that facility process detainees?" Bennett hesitated. "No, ma'am." Hayes looked back at Mercer, then opened the door. Mercer remained still. Mayor Hayes stepped closer. "I am not asking again, Sergeant." Bennett reached for the handle. Mercer raised one hand. "Wait." The mayor's eyes narrowed. Mercer took a breath. "Before anyone does anything, I need to know why you're involving yourself in this." Hayes stared at him for several seconds. Then, she pointed toward Maya. "Open that door, Sergeant." Mercer did not move. The mayor's voice became quieter. "You are going to want it open before I explain who is sitting in the back of your patrol car." Bennett reached for the rear door handle, while Mercer stood motionless beside him. The mayor did not repeat her order. She simply waited, and that silence finally forced Mercer to step aside. Bennett opened the door. Mayor Rebecca Hayes looked directly at Maya. "Chief Williams, are you all right?" Bennett's hand stopped on the door. Shaw turned toward Maya so quickly that his body camera shifted with him. Mercer stared through the open doorway. "Chief?" Hayes faced him. "Sergeant Mercer, why is the woman I am swearing in as Riverton's chief of police on Monday sitting handcuffed in the back of your patrol car?" No one answered. Bennett looked at Maya again, this time understanding why she had asked questions the way she had, why she had insisted on continuous recording, and why she had refused to identify herself when doing so could have ended the detention much earlier. Mercer recovered first. "Madam Mayor, we were acting on information involving confidential department property." She refused to surrender a data device connected to an active matter. Maya shifted toward the open door and placed one foot on the pavement. Hayes looked at her cuffed hands. "Take those off." "Not yet," Maya said. The mayor turned to her. Maya stepped fully out of the patrol car. "I want every body camera to remain active until this detention is properly concluded." Mercer's expression changed. "Chief, with respect, now that we know who you are, there's no reason to continue this." "That is exactly why it continues." Maya looked at Bennett. "Your camera is still recording?" "Yes, ma'am." "Officer Shaw?" "Still recording." She turned back to Mercer. "Sergeant, state the offense for which I was detained." Mercer hesitated. "Possession of confidential property." "What property?" "A memory card containing restricted information." "Who owns it?" Mercer looked toward the mayor. "That information is part of an active investigation." "Case number?" "I don't have it in front of me." "Evidence recovery authorization?" "I was acting under command direction." "Whose direction?" Mercer remained silent. Hayes watched the exchange without interrupting. Maya continued. "You searched my handbag." removed my personal property, declined to create an evidence receipt, refused central booking, ordered transport to a facility that does not process detainees, and twice attempted to have active body cameras shut off. Is any part of that inaccurate? Mercer took a breath. Chief, this was a misunderstanding based on information I received. A misunderstanding doesn't require a holding site that doesn't process detainees. Bennett lowered his eyes. Mercer tried another approach. Then, let me correct it now. Maya shook her head. You don't correct a record by stopping it when it becomes inconvenient. She turned toward Hayes. Madam Mayor, I need outside city council contacted immediately. Hayes nodded to her aide, who stepped away with a phone. Maya looked at Shaw. Officer Shaw, preserve your body camera file through the normal vendor system. Do not review, duplicate, edit, or annotate it yourself. Yes, ma'am. Officer Bennett, same instruction. Yes, Chief. Sergeant Mercer, your body camera file, department phone metadata, radio traffic, and patrol vehicle location history will also need preservation. Nobody is being asked to decide guilt here. We are preserving what happened before anyone has a chance to rewrite it. Mercer's voice tightened. You're treating me like a suspect. I'm treating the evidence like evidence. That answer ended the argument. Maya then looked toward her sedan. My handbag needs to be sealed and logged in its current condition. The items removed from it need to be inventoried separately, including the keys. Shaw still held them. He stepped forward. Chief, I have the keys. Thank you. Place them with the property officer once one arrives. Don't hand them to anyone else. Mercer looked from Shaw to Bennett and realized neither man was waiting for his instructions anymore. Hayes stepped closer to Maya. Can we remove the cuffs now? Maya looked at Bennett. Yes. Bennett unlocked them carefully. The metal opened with 2 clicks. Maya brought her hands forward and adjusted the sleeves of her coat. She did not look at Mercer until Bennett stepped back. Sergeant, submit your original incident account before reviewing any footage. Mercer frowned. Why? Because I want the report you would have written if the mayor had never arrived. That landed harder than an accusation. Mercer looked away first. Several minutes later, an attorney from the city's outside council office arrived with a municipal security supervisor. Maya's handbag was sealed in their presence, and the officers confirmed the preservation instructions on camera. Only after that was completed did Hayes guide Maya toward the center SUV. Once the doors were closed, the mayor turned toward her. What did Mercer want? Maya removed the key fob Shaw had returned after it was logged and released. She pressed along one edge, opened a narrow concealed compartment, and tipped a tiny memory card into her palm. Hayes stared at it. You had it the entire time? Yes. And he never found it? No. Hayes leaned back. What's on it? Records from Riverton Plaza. Rachel Kim, the loss prevention director, gave them to me before I came outside. She believes inventory losses, insurance claims, police recovery reports, and property records don't match. Why give them to you before you were sworn in? Because she was afraid the records would disappear before Monday. Hayes looked through the tinted window toward Mercer. You could have told him who you were. I could have. Why didn't you? Maya closed the key fob. Because once Mercer knew I had authority over him, I would never know what he was willing to do to someone he believed didn't. The mayor was quiet. Maya placed the memory card into an empty evidence envelope provided by outside counsel and signed across the seal. Make 3 forensic copies, she told the attorney. 1 stays with your office. 1 goes to an independent examiner. The original remains sealed. Hayes looked at Maya. You think this is bigger than Mercer? Maya glanced back toward the patrol cars. Mercer was no longer watching the mayor. He was watching the sealed envelope. Yes, Maya said. And so does he. Monday morning, Maya entered Riverton City Hall in a dark blue dress uniform and walked beside her father toward the council chamber. Henry Williams had insisted on arriving early, and when they stopped outside the doors, he reached up and straightened the edge of her collar. You've checked that twice already, Maya said. I know. Then why are you doing it again? Henry gave her a small smile. Because after today, too many people are going to be afraid to tell the chief. Her collar is crooked. Maya smiled and let him finish. Inside, Mayor Rebecca Hayes waited near the city seal with several department commanders, city officials, and representatives from the police union. Coffee cups sat on a side table, and conversations stopped as Maya entered. Hayes approached first. "Ready?" "I was ready Friday." The mayor understood the reference but did not respond to it in front of the others. The ceremony remained brief. Maya raised her right hand while Hayes administered the oath. She repeated each line clearly, then accepted the badge that had been prepared for her. Henry stood near the front. When Maya pinned the badge above her left pocket, he waited until the applause ended before stepping forward. "Congratulations, Chief." It was the first time he had used the title. Maya hugged him. Henry stepped back and looked at the badge. "Carry it carefully." "I will." That's all I needed to hear. Less than an hour later, Maya entered the chief's office at Riverton Police Headquarters for the first time with full authority. She had barely set a folder on the desk when her assistant announced Assistant Chief Evelyn Cross. "Send her in." Cross entered carrying a leather portfolio. She was in her late 50s, dressed in uniform, with the composed manner of someone who had spent years dealing with administrative problems before they reached the public. "Welcome to Riverton, Chief." Maya looked up. The voice caught her attention immediately. She had heard only fragments of the phone conversation in the mall service corridor, but the tone was familiar enough that she did not dismiss it. Maya stood and shook Cross's hand. "Assistant Chief, I thought I'd give you some time to settle in, but Friday changed the schedule. That tends to happen when an incoming chief gets detained by her own department." Cross did not react defensively. "Sergeant Mercer's situation needs to be reviewed carefully. I oversee professional standards, so I can take personal responsibility for the investigation." Maya sat. "No." Cross paused. "No? I'm a direct participant in the incident. Mercer works within a command structure that eventually reaches this office, and the allegation involves department evidence procedures. I want outside preservation before professional standards touches the original material." Cross remained standing for another moment before taking the chair across from Maya. "That's an unusually cautious approach. It's a necessary one. You don't trust your own department?" "I don't know my own department yet. That's different." Cross opened the portfolio. "Professional standards exists for exactly this kind of situation. And outside, preservation exists for situations where professional standards may become part of the evidentiary chain." Cross looked at her carefully. "Are you suggesting my office is involved?" "I'm suggesting I don't know who's involved." The answer gave Cross nothing to argue against. Maya opened a prepared list. 3 body camera files from Friday are to be preserved directly with the vendor. Mercer's department phone metadata and vehicle location history are to be held without alteration. I want the complete dispatch record, including any calls that did not originate through regular dispatch. Riverton Plaza has already received an outside preservation notice for relevant surveillance footage. Cross folded her hands. "You moved quickly." "I had a quiet weekend." "And the memory card?" "Outside City Council has custody of the original." That was the first moment Cross's expression changed, though only slightly. "Already?" 3 forensic images were created Friday evening. The original remains sealed. Cross leaned back. "You realize that may complicate chain of custody if the material turns out to include restricted police records. If it includes police records, the forensic review will establish their source. And if Rachel Kim obtained them improperly, then that will be addressed separately." Cross nodded. "Good. You're separating the evidence from the person who provided it. That's usually useful." Cross closed the portfolio. "I hope you don't mind advice from someone who has been here longer." "I listen to advice. Riverton has had a difficult few years. Morale is fragile. Public trust is fragile. If the Mercer incident becomes the first public battle of your administration, officers may conclude you arrived looking for someone to punish." Maya did not answer immediately. Cross continued. "Sometimes the strongest leadership is allowing a process to work quietly." "Quietly? For whom?" Cross met her eyes. "For everyone." Maya leaned back. "Sergeant Mercer tried to move a handcuffed detainee to a facility that does not process detainees. He knew about a specific memory card before he searched for it. He ordered officers to shut down body cameras, and he refused to identify who authorized the operation. If there is an innocent explanation, preserving the original evidence will protect him. And if there isn't, then silence won't protect the department. Cross studied her for several seconds before standing. Careful leadership is good leadership, Chief. Maya stood as well. We agree on that. Cross gave her a professional nod and left. Maya waited until the door closed before picking up the phone. She called outside counsel. I want written confirmation today that every Friday preservation request has been acknowledged. If anyone asks to modify, delay, or narrow one, call me before responding. Understood. Maya ended the call and looked through the office window toward the operations floor. Friday had begun with Mercer. By Monday, she no longer believed it ended with him. Across the building, Cross entered her administrative office and locked the door. She did not call Mercer. She did not touch the body camera files. Those were already too visible. Instead, she opened the department's administrative access dashboard and searched Maya Williams. The new chief's credentials had been activated that morning. Cross studied the permissions attached to the account, then opened another folder labeled Commercial Property Exceptions. Several case numbers appeared. They matched records she had hoped Maya would never see. Cross sat quietly for a moment, then picked up her desk phone. I need an integrity review, opened under the chief's credentials. The person on the other end asked a question. Cross looked toward the closed office door. No notice to her yet. I want the access record established first. She ended the call, returned to the dashboard, and watched Maya's name remain at the top of the screen. Destroying the memory card was no longer possible. Cross had already chosen the alternative. She would make the woman holding it look like the criminal. Monday morning, Maya entered Riverton City Hall in a dark blue dress uniform and walked beside her father toward the council chamber. Henry Williams had insisted on arriving early, and when they stopped outside the doors, he reached up and straightened the edge of her collar. You've checked that twice already, Maya said. I know. Then why are you doing it again? Henry gave her a small smile. Because after today, too many people are going to be afraid to tell the chief. Her collar is crooked. Maya smiled and let him finish. Inside, Mayor Rebecca Hayes waited near the city seal with several department commanders, city officials, and representatives from the police union. Coffee cups sat on a side table, and conversation stopped as Maya entered. Hayes approached first. Ready? I was ready Friday. The mayor understood the reference but did not respond to it in front of the others. The ceremony remained brief. Maya raised her right hand while Hayes administered the oath. She repeated each line clearly, then accepted the badge that had been prepared for her. Henry stood near the front. When Maya pinned the badge above her left pocket, he waited until the applause ended before stepping forward. Congratulations, Chief. It was the first time he had used the title. Maya hugged him. Henry stepped back and looked at the badge. Carry it carefully. I will. That's all I needed to hear. Less than an hour later, Maya entered the chief's office at Riverton Police Headquarters for the first time with full authority. She had barely set a folder on the desk when her assistant announced, Assistant Chief Evelyn Cross. Send her in. Cross entered carrying a leather portfolio. She was in her late 50s, dressed in uniform, with the composed manner of someone who had spent years dealing with administrative problems before they reached the public. Welcome to Riverton, Chief. Maya looked up. The voice caught her attention immediately. She had heard only fragments of the phone conversation in the mall service corridor, but the tone was familiar enough that she did not dismiss it. Maya stood and shook Cross's hand. Assistant Chief, I thought I'd give you some time to settle in, but Friday changed the schedule. That tends to happen when an incoming chief gets detained by her own department. Cross did not react defensively. Sergeant Mercer's situation needs to be reviewed carefully. I oversee professional standards, so I can take personal responsibility for the investigation. Maya sat. No. Cross paused. No? I'm a direct participant in the incident. Mercer works within a command structure that eventually reaches this office, and the allegation involves department evidence procedures. I want outside preservation before professional standards touches the original material. Cross remained standing for another moment before taking the chair across from Maya. That's an unusually cautious approach. It's a necessary one. You don't trust your own department? I don't know my own department yet. That's different. Cross opened the portfolio. Professional standards exists for exactly this kind of situation. And outside, Preservation exists for situations where professional standards may become part of the evidentiary chain. Cross looked at her carefully. Are you suggesting my office is involved? I'm suggesting I don't know who's involved. The answer gave Cross nothing to argue against. Maya opened a prepared list. 3 body camera files from Friday are to be preserved directly with the vendor. Mercer's department phone metadata and vehicle location history are to be held without alteration. I want the complete dispatch record, including any calls that did not originate through regular dispatch. Riverton Plaza has already received an outside preservation notice for relevant surveillance footage. Cross folded her hands. You moved quickly. I had a quiet weekend. And the memory card? Outside City Council has custody of the original. That was the first moment Cross's expression changed, though only slightly. Already? 3 forensic images were created Friday evening. The original remains sealed. Cross leaned back. You realize that may complicate chain of custody if the material turns out to include restricted police records. If it includes police records, the forensic review will establish their source. And if Rachel Kim obtained them improperly, then that will be addressed separately. Cross nodded. Good. You're separating the evidence from the person who provided it. That's usually useful. Cross closed the portfolio. I hope you don't mind advice from someone who has been here longer. I listen to advice. Riverton has had a difficult few years. Morale is fragile. Public trust is fragile. If the Mercer incident becomes the first public battle of your administration, officers may conclude you arrived looking for someone to punish. Maya did not answer immediately. Cross continued. Sometimes the strongest leadership is allowing a process to work quietly. Quietly for whom? Cross met her eyes. For everyone. Maya leaned back. Sergeant Mercer tried to move a handcuffed detainee to a facility that does not process detainees. He knew about a specific memory card before he searched for it. He ordered officers to shut down body cameras, and he refused to identify who authorized the operation. If there is an innocent explanation, preserving the original evidence will protect him. And if there isn't, then silence won't protect the department. Cross studied her for several seconds before standing. Careful leadership is good leadership, Chief. Maya stood as well. We agree on that. Cross gave her a professional nod and left. Maya waited until the door closed before picking up the phone. She called outside counsel. I want written confirmation today that every Friday preservation request has been acknowledged. If anyone asks to modify, delay, or narrow one, call me before responding. Understood. Maya ended the call and looked through the office window toward the operations floor. Friday had begun with Mercer. By Monday, she no longer believed it ended with him. Across the building, Cross entered her administrative office and locked the door. She did not call Mercer. She did not touch the body camera files. Those were already too visible. Instead, she opened the department's administrative access dashboard and searched Maya Williams. The new chief's credentials had been activated that morning. Cross studied the permissions attached to the account, then opened another folder labeled Commercial Property Exceptions. Several case numbers appeared. They matched records she had hoped Maya would never see. Cross sat quietly for a moment, then picked up her desk phone. I need an integrity review opened under the chief's credentials. The person on the other end asked a question. Cross looked toward the closed office door. No notice to her yet. I want the access record established first. She ended the call, returned to the dashboard, and watched Maya's name remain at the top of the screen. Destroying the memory card was no longer possible. Cross had already chosen the alternative. She would make the woman holding it look like the criminal. Tuesday began with a routine systems briefing in Maya's office. She had been chief for less than a full day, and her calendar was already crowded with budget reviews, staffing reports, union questions, and meetings about the commercial district. A ceramic mug of coffee sat beside her keyboard and cooled, while 2 department administrators explained access permissions for command-level records. Maya listened, asked several questions, then signed off on the standard onboarding checklist. Anything else I should know about the new account? She asked. The systems administrator shook his head. Your permissions are active. Executive folders, internal review summaries, personnel dashboards, and audit access are all enabled. Any automatic downloads or migrations tied to the chief's profile? Nothing outside the normal configuration. Maya nodded. Send me that in writing. The administrator looked slightly surprised. Of course. After he left, Maya returned to the staffing report on her desk. Across the building, Cross was already using the administrative system in a very different way. She entered through a service account reserved for records maintenance. The account could create access events, correct classification errors, and restore files during system migrations. It was supposed to be used for technical work, but it also allowed an administrator with sufficient privileges to generate activity that appeared under another user's profile. Cross selected Maya Williams. A restricted commercial crime folder opened. She did not download hundreds of files or create anything dramatic enough to trigger an immediate alert. She selected only a few records connected to the same commercial property cases that appeared on Rachel Kim's memory card. 1 access event, 1 download, 1 records request. Then, another entry showing that the chief's account had reviewed an audit exemption. Each action looked ordinary by itself. Together, they created a sequence. Cross closed the dashboard and called a senior records analyst. I need you to verify whether the chief's account touched the commercial property files this morning. The analyst checked. Yes, ma'am. It shows access. Document it. Is there a problem? Not yet. Just preserve the log. Cross ended the call. By mid-morning, Maya received an automated notification saying her account had accessed a restricted file group. She read the message twice. Then she called Information Technology. This is Chief Williams. I received an access alert for commercial property files. I didn't open those records. The technician checked the system. It may be part of the executive account migration. Does migration create user-level access logs? Sometimes the system can assign activity during permissions mapping. Can you confirm that? I'll have to ask administration. Do that, please. Send the explanation to me by email. Less than 20 minutes later, Cross appeared at Maya's door. I heard you had an access issue. That information moved quickly. Anything involving executive credentials gets attention. Maya turned her monitor toward her. The system says I accessed these files this morning. I didn't. Cross examined the screen. New command accounts can produce strange audit activity during the first few days. Permissions are copied, mapped, and verified. It wasn't sure. They usually aren't when executive accounts are involved. Maya watched her. Can those false events be distinguished from actual logins? With a full audit, yes. Then order one. Cross gave a small nod. I'll have records look at it. I want IT included. Of course. Cross left without argument. Maya returned to her desk, but the notification stayed in her mind. She picked up the coffee mug, took one sip, realized it had gone cold, and set it back down. Later that afternoon, another issue appeared. A restricted records request had been submitted under her authority. Maya called her executive assistant. Did I approve a commercial crime records request today? No, Chief. Did anyone bring one in for signature? No. Pull my outgoing approvals from this morning. Her assistant returned several minutes later with the electronic list. The request was not there. Maya called IT again. This time the technician sounded less certain. The system shows executive authorization. From which device? I can't see that at my level. Who can? Administrative systems. Cross's office. Maya leaned back. Do not correct or delete anything. Ma'am, if the record is wrong, preserve it exactly as it is. I want the original audit trail. Yes, Chief. Maya wrote the time on a yellow legal pad. She did not call Cross again. That evening, after most of headquarters had emptied, a records specialist from Cross's administrative unit walked down the executive hallway, carrying a sealed brown envelope marked confidential. The corridor camera recorded her badge entry into Maya's office. She remained inside for less than 2 minutes. When she came out, the envelope was no longer in her hand. The specialist returned to Cross's office. It's done. Cross looked up from her desk. You followed the delivery route? Yes. No email? No. No document receipt? The woman hesitated. You said not to create one. I said this was a hand-delivered integrity document. Yes, ma'am. Cross closed the file in front of her. Go home. The specialist left. Cross waited another half-hour before sending an internal instruction for a limited records integrity check of the chief's new office the following morning. The language was routine and gave no indication that anyone expected to find anything. Wednesday began with Maya arriving before most of her staff. Her coffee was fresh when her assistant appeared in the doorway. "Chief, Records is asking for access to your office cabinets." Maya looked up. "Why?" "They say it's part of the executive transition audit." "Who authorized it?" "Assistant Chief Cross." Maya stood. "Let them in. I'll stay here." Two records employees entered with a checklist. They examined file drawers, serial numbers, and document control labels while Maya worked at her desk. One of them opened the lower cabinet beside the credenza and stopped. "Chief." Maya turned. The employee removed a sealed brown envelope. Across the front was a red stamp. "Confidential internal investigation." Maya stood slowly. "What is that?" The records employee looked uncomfortable. "It's registered material. I can read the label. I'm asking why it's in my office." Cross arrived less than 5 minutes later. She examined the envelope without touching it. "Don't open it." Maya looked at her. "I've never seen it before." Cross remained composed. "Then we preserve it exactly as found." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Serial number?" The records employee read it aloud. Cross checked a tablet. "It belongs to a restricted commercial investigation." The room became quiet. Maya looked from the envelope to Cross. "So yesterday the system says, I accessed commercial files I never opened. Then a request appears under my authority that I never approved. Now, confidential material from the same subject is found in my office." Cross met her gaze. "That is why we preserve everything." Maya picked up her legal pad and wrote down the time. Cross watched her. "What are you doing?" "Making sure I remember when this stopped looking like a computer problem." Cross said nothing. Maya capped the pen. "Do not move that envelope until outside counsel is notified." Cross's expression remained professional. "Chief, if this is an internal integrity matter, outside counsel may not control the first review." Maya looked directly at her. "Then put that objection in writing." Cross nodded once. "I will." She left the office. Maya remained beside the desk, looking at the envelope she had never seen and the cold coffee she had not touched. Someone was no longer trying to hide evidence from her. Someone was building evidence around her. By Thursday morning, Maya had received no written explanation for the false access logs and no answer about how the confidential envelope had entered her office. Instead, her assistant called just after the morning briefing began. "Chief, City Administration is asking for you in Conference Room B." "Who's there?" "The City Manager's Counsel, someone from Human Resources, and Assistant Chief Cross." Maya closed the folder in front of her. "Did they provide a subject?" "No, ma'am." That answer was enough. When Maya entered the conference room, Cross was already seated beside a representative from the city attorney's office. Mayor Rebecca Hayes stood near the window with a binder in her hands. She did not look comfortable. Maya took the empty chair. "What happened?" The attorney opened a document. "Chief Williams, effective immediately. You are being placed on emergency administrative leave pending an integrity review." Maya looked from him to Hayes. "On what basis?" The attorney slid the binder across the table. Inside were copies of the access logs she had challenged, the records request she had never approved, the confidential envelope recovered from her office, and a written statement signed by Sergeant Cole Mercer. Maya turned directly to his statement. Mercer now claimed that the confrontation outside Riverton Plaza had been a lawful attempt to recover confidential department material removed without authorization. According to his account, Maya had refused repeated instructions to surrender the data device and had interfered with an active commercial investigation. She read the paragraph twice. "He's claiming the memory card belonged to the police department." "That is his statement," the attorney said. "It came from Rachel Kim. We are aware that Miss Kim is also being reviewed for improper access to proprietary records." Maya looked at Cross. "Convenient." Cross did not react. "I did not write Sergeant Mercer's statement, but your office controls the records now being used to support it. The records were preserved because you ordered preservation. I ordered evidence preserved. I did not order anyone to manufacture access under my credentials." Hayes stepped forward. "Maya, Nobody in this room is saying the allegations have been proven. Then why am I being removed from my office? The attorney answered. Because the allegations involve potential misuse of executive credentials, possession of restricted material, and interference with a department matter. Keeping you in command during the review creates an immediate conflict. Maya opened another section of the binder. An access event showed her account entering a restricted commercial crime folder late Tuesday afternoon. Another showed a download shortly afterward. A third recorded authorization for an audit exception. I wasn't at this terminal when these events occurred. Cross folded her hands. That is exactly what the review needs to determine. Maya looked at the mayor. And until then? Hayes took a breath. You surrender, department. Access temporarily. Maya remained seated for several seconds, then unclipped her badge. The room went silent as she placed it on the table. Next came her access card, then her department phone. Finally, she closed her official laptop and pushed it across to the attorney. Preserve the devices in their current state, Maya said. No reset, no account migration, no administrative cleanup. The attorney nodded. That will be done. Maya looked at Cross. And nobody alters the audit logs. Of course not. Put that in writing. Cross met her eyes. I will. Hayes stepped closer to the table. This is temporary. Maya looked at the badge between them. Temporary power can do permanent damage if nobody watches what it does. Cross remained silent. The attorney explained the restrictions. Maya could communicate with personal counsel and outside investigators, but could not direct Riverton personnel, enter secure facilities, access department systems, or contact employees about the investigation in an official capacity. As soon as the leave order became active, Cross became the senior administrator overseeing daily operations. Maya understood the design immediately. The person whose office appeared inside the suspicious chain of events now had greater control over the systems Maya could no longer access. She stood. Who is preserving Friday's evidence while I'm out? Existing preservation orders remain in force, the attorney said. Through whom? Outside counsel retains the memory card original. Vendor preservation requests remain active. That gave Maya at least one piece of solid ground. She turned toward Hayes. Do not let anyone narrow those requests. Hayes nodded. I won't. Maya left the conference room without looking back at her badge. Before she reached the lobby, her personal phone rang. It was outside counsel. You need to know something, the attorney said. Riverton Plaza suspended Rachel Kim this morning. On what grounds? Unauthorized copying of proprietary business records. Management is claiming she removed confidential information and passed it to someone who had no official authority to receive it at the time. Maya Williams, private citizen, Maya said. That appears to be the argument. They're building the same story around both of us. Yes. Maya stopped near the front entrance. Has Rachel retained counsel? She has now. Good. No direct contact from me. Keep everything through counsel. Understood. Across town, Bennett was sitting inside Cross's office when she placed a prepared statement in front of him. He read the first page and stopped. This says Chief Williams refused repeated lawful commands to surrender department property. Cross remained calm. Did she refuse to disclose the location of the memory card? Yes. But Mercer never proved it was department property. The issue is whether the recovery effort was lawful. That's not the same question. Cross leaned back. Officer Bennett, your job is to describe what happened. I am describing what happened. Then sign the statement. Bennett looked down again. Another sentence said Mercer had acted under command authorization during an active evidence recovery operation. Bennett pushed the document away. I never saw an authorization. You were not required to. Then I'm not signing that I did. Cross studied him. You should think carefully about whether you want to place yourself outside the official account. Bennett met her eyes. If the official account needs me to say something I didn't see, then I'm already outside it. Cross did not raise her voice. Take the document home. Read it again. I don't need to. Take it anyway. Bennett left without signing. That evening, Maya returned home carrying only her personal purse and the paper copy of the leave order. Henry Williams was sitting at her kitchen table with 2 cups of coffee. His eyes moved to her coat. The badge was gone. He did not ask whether she had been fired. He waited until she sat down. What did they make you defend? Maya placed the suspension order beside the coffee. Myself. Henry nodded slowly. Then maybe that's where they want you looking. Maya stared at the papers for a moment. Cross had taken her badge, her systems access, her office, and her ability to command the investigation. But the original memory card was still outside the department. For the first time that day, Maya stopped thinking about how to prove the accusations against her were false. She began thinking about what Cross was trying to keep everyone from examining instead. Henry waited until Maya had finished reading the leave order again, before he pushed the second cup of coffee toward her. "You've been staring at the same pages for 20 minutes, he said. "They created access logs under my name, planted a confidential file in my office, and turned Mercer into a witness against me. If I don't dismantle each one of those claims, the city attorney can send this to state investigators." Henry took a slow sip of coffee. "So that's what you're doing? What else would I be doing? Defending their story?" Maya looked at him. Henry pointed toward the papers covering the table. "Every page in front of you came from them. Every accusation tells you where to look next. If you spend all your time proving their papers are false, they still decide what you spend your time on. They're accusing me of crimes. I understand that. Then I have to answer. Yes. But answering them and following them are two different things." Maya leaned back. "What are you suggesting?" Henry thought for a moment before responding. "Don't prove every lie wrong. Find the truth they didn't know they had to lie about." Maya looked at the suspension order again, then at the legal folder beside it. The original memory card was not in police custody. Cross had no administrative authority over it. Outside counsel had sealed it Friday night, and forensic copies had been made before Maya was sworn in. That mattered. Maya reached for her personal phone and called the attorney handling the outside preservation. "I want an independent forensic accountant added to the review of Rachel Kim's drive." The attorney paused. "You're shifting away from the access allegations?" "I'm not ignoring them. I'm separating them from the underlying records. Cross wants the argument to be about whether I had permission to possess the data. I want to know what the data actually shows. We can arrange that. Someone with no connection to Riverton Police or Riverton Plaza." "Understood. And all communication goes through counsel. I don't want anyone claiming I directed a witness while I'm suspended. I'll make sure the boundaries are clear." The review began Friday morning at the office of an independent accounting firm across town. Maya attended only with counsel and was not given access to any police database. The forensic copy of the memory card was opened on a standalone system, and every file was recorded before examination. At first, the documents looked disconnected. Inventory spreadsheets from Riverton Plaza, insurance claims, police recovery certificates, warehouse transfer records, vendor invoices, administrative exceptions. Maya watched the accountant arrange them by date and case number. "Start with the merchandise," she said. "Don't start with police names." The accountant nodded and selected a group of high-value electronics reported missing from 2 mall retailers. The inventory report showed a loss. An insurance claim followed. Several days later, a Riverton police recovery certificate stated that part of the merchandise had been located during a commercial enforcement operation. Maya pointed at the next field. "Property intake number? There isn't one. Check the transfer code." The accountant opened another table. The supposedly recovered merchandise had been sent to a private warehouse outside the city. "That doesn't make sense," Maya said. "Recovered property should have an intake trail before any transfer." The accountant searched the warehouse code. The same destination appeared again. And, again, different retailers, different dates, different police incident numbers. The pattern continued. Goods were declared missing. Insurance claims were paid. Police records later reported recoveries, but the items never appeared in normal property room records. Instead, transfer codes moved them to the same private warehouse. The accountant opened resale invoices connected to the warehouse. Maya leaned forward. "Those serial numbers, they match. The same merchandise that had been reported stolen and later certified as recovered had re-entered the market through a separate vendor." Counsel looked at Maya. "So somebody gets paid twice?" "More than twice," she said. "The retailer receives insurance reimbursement. The goods are recovered on paper. The merchandise is diverted before it reaches property intake, then resold through another channel. The accountant pulled up a set of consulting invoices, and these payments return through security contracts. Maya read the vendor names. Several led back to companies doing work for Riverton Plaza. Others were tied to city commercial security contracts. Then she found Mercer's unit. His name did not appear on every file, but his commercial patrol section repeatedly signed recovery certifications connected to the same warehouse. Maya continued down the approval chain. Whenever a file contained a missing property entry, irregular transfer, or absent audit, an administrative exception appeared later. The approving office was often the same. Assistant Chief Evelyn Cross. Counsel looked at Maya. Is that enough to prove she knew about the fraud? No. Maya kept reading. It proves her office kept opening the doors that allowed these cases to close without full review. That's not the same as proving she knew why. The accountant nodded. Then we need something independent of these records. Exactly. That afternoon, Rachel Kim's attorney joined a conference call. Rachel had remained suspended from the mall and no longer had access to its internal security system. My account is locked, she said. Management controls the regular cameras now. Maya answered carefully. Don't try to access anything you're no longer authorized to use. I won't. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Wait. The main security cameras aren't the only cameras in the mall. What else is there? The advertising displays. The digital kiosks count foot traffic for the ad company. They have their own small cameras. Who controls the recordings? Not mall security. The advertising vendor does. Their servers are out of state. Maya looked at counsel. The attorney was already writing. Can you identify the company? Yes. Give the information to your attorney, Maya said. Not to me directly. Counsel can send a preservation request. Rachel agreed. After the call ended, Maya remained at the conference table while the accountant continued sorting the financial records. The case Cross had built against her depended on systems Cross could influence. Internal logs, internal documents, internal classifications, internal witnesses. The evidence Maya needed had to come from somewhere else. She pulled a yellow legal pad toward her and wrote 3 words in capital letters, outside their control. Then she slid the pad toward counsel. From now on, that's the rule. Body cameras, vendor servers, outside financial records, third-party footage. If Cross's office can touch it, we treat it as compromised until proven otherwise. Counsel nodded. And if we find enough outside the department? Maya looked at the growing list of warehouse transfers, resale invoices, and commercial recovery certificates. Then I stopped defending myself and start proving what they were protecting. By Monday evening, Noah Bennett had stopped pretending the situation would settle on its own. He sat alone in a neighborhood diner a few blocks from headquarters, turning a cup of coffee between his hands while the dinner crowd talked around him. Several officers from his shift occupied a booth near the front, but no one had invited him over. His phone rested beside the sugar dispenser. The unsigned statement Cross had given him was still folded inside his jacket. He had read it enough times to understand what it was designed to do. Almost every sentence contained something that had happened, but the meaning had been changed. Maya had refused to reveal the location of the memory card. That was true. Mercer had ordered her to surrender it. Also true. What the statement left out was that Mercer had never established ownership, never identified a case, and never explained why he knew the drive existed before searching her. Bennett took out his phone and called the attorney representing Maya through outside counsel. This is Officer Bennett. I think I have something you need to preserve. The attorney did not ask him to explain everything over the phone. What kind of evidence? My body camera file from Friday. We already know the department has a preservation order. That isn't what I mean. Our cameras upload automatically to the vendor before the department gets the working copy. There was a pause. The original vendor ingest? Yes. The system creates a hash when the file first hits the server. If the department puts a hold on it afterward, they can restrict access, but they can't change the original upload without creating a mismatch. Can you identify the vendor account and file reference without accessing restricted evidence yourself? Yes. Then don't download anything. Send the preservation information through your attorney or union counsel. We'll request it properly. Bennett looked toward the officers sitting across the diner. I understand. Before ending the call, he added, the camera was running when Mercer ordered me to turn it off. That matters. He also named the memory card before anybody found one. That matters more. Bennett hung up and finally drank the coffee. It had gone cold. The next morning, outside counsel sent a formal preservation demand to the body camera vendor. The response arrived within hours. The original file had been retained with its first ingest timestamp and digital hash intact. Maya received the update through counsel. Do not send me the video directly, she said. Keep it in the legal chain. The attorney agreed. There's more. Bennett isn't the only officer whose file matters. Shaw. Exactly. Daniel Shaw had preserved his own recording through the same vendor process. His camera had been positioned several yards away when Mercer made the phone call from the service area, giving it a clearer audio track than Bennett's. Counsel played only the authenticated transcript for Maya. Mercer's words appeared in sequence. It's not in the bag. Then later, I can move her. And finally, before the motorcade arrives. Maya read the last sentence twice. Can we establish who he called? Not from the recording alone. We need carrier metadata or the department phone record through proper authority. Preserve first. Subpoena later. That's already moving. The second development came from Rachel Kim's attorney. The advertising company operating Riverton Plaza's digital kiosks had confirmed that its traffic analysis cameras retained short video segments on an external cloud system. Mall management could view analytics reports, but could not erase the vendor archive directly. Outside counsel obtained a preservation commitment. The relevant footage showed Mercer's patrol vehicle arriving before Maya left the mall. Another camera captured a mall manager standing near the entrance, watching the doors. When Maya appeared, the manager lifted one hand and pointed toward her sedan. Seconds later, Bennett and Shaw moved into position. Maya watched the authenticated copy in counsel's office. No radio call brought them to me, she said. No, the attorney replied. They were already waiting, and the manager knew which person to identify. Yes, Maya asked for the video to be sealed with its original metadata and left untouched until needed. The third break came from the independent digital examiner reviewing the access logs Cross had presented against Maya. He placed two printed timelines side by side. The events carrying your name were not generated from your laptop. Maya leaned forward. How can you tell? The device signature doesn't match. More importantly, the events came through an administrative service account used for maintenance and permission mapping. Who controls it? Administrative systems. Maya already knew what that meant. Cross's office. The examiner continued. One event is especially problematic for their case. Your account supposedly accessed a restricted folder after your personal credentials had been disabled. Maya looked at the timestamp. After I surrendered my badge and laptop, 47 minutes later. Could someone using my password still have logged in? Not through your disabled account. The event was generated through the administrator layer and labeled with your identity. Counsel asked. Does that prove Cross personally created it? No. It proves someone with administrative access created an event that was attributed to Chief Williams. Determining the individual user requires additional audit records. Maya nodded. Then we don't claim more than it proves. By Tuesday afternoon, 3 independent evidence sources existed outside Cross's control. The body camera vendor, the advertising camera archive, and the administrative forensic analysis. Cross learned about them before the day ended. She responded immediately. Mayor Hayes called Maya that evening. Cross has asked the city attorney to move forward with a criminal referral. Maya remained quiet. Hayes continued. She's also requested an emergency city council session to reconsider your appointment. When? Wednesday morning. That fast? She's arguing the department can't remain under temporary leadership while its chief is facing possible criminal allegations. Maya understood the strategy. If the city removed her appointment before the outside evidence was formally heard, Cross would gain time and political control. What format is the meeting? Public session. City feed goes live. Maya looked at the schedule on the table beside her. A separate notice from Riverton Plaza had been included in Rachel's materials. Public Commerce Forum, Wednesday. The mall planned to carry the mayor's City Hall remarks on its large digital screens as part of the event. Maya read the notice again. Mayor, is the Riverton Plaza forum still connected to the City Hall broadcast? Yes. Why? Because Cross built her case inside systems she could control. Hayes waited. Maya looked at the evidence list in front of her. If we answer her inside another closed administrative file, she'll spend months arguing over what belongs in the record. What are you suggesting? That the authenticated evidence be presented where the official record is already public. Hayes understood. You want the hearing broadcast with the evidence. I want every presentation authorized through the Oversight Commission and every source authenticated before it goes on screen. No shortcuts. None. Maya closed the folder. If they want a record, we'll give them one they can't rewrite. By Tuesday night, Maya's attorneys had moved the evidence into a process Cross could not control. The Civilian Police Oversight Commission agreed to review the body camera files, the third-party mall footage, and the preliminary digital forensics report before the emergency city council session the next morning. Maya joined the review by secure video from outside council's office. She remained suspended and had no authority to direct department employees, so every request went through attorneys or the commission. The commission chair, Margaret Sloan, studied the preservation records before speaking. If we present any of this tomorrow, I want no question about authentication. There won't be, Maya said. The body camera originals came directly from the vendor. The mall footage came from the advertising company's cloud archive. The examiner worked from preserved system logs. Sloan looked toward the city attorney seated beside her. And the public broadcast? The city council session already has an official live stream, he replied. Riverton Plaza is scheduled to carry the mayor's remarks during its commerce forum. If the commission authorizes the evidence presentation as part of the public session, the same feed can lawfully appear on the mall screens. Maya nodded. No private upload, no unofficial stream. Everything goes through the city broadcast system. Sloan looked at her. You understand that once this starts, you don't control what happens afterward. I don't want control over it. I want a record. The meeting ended shortly before 9. Mayor Rebecca Hayes remained behind. Maya, stay for a minute. When the others left, Hayes closed the conference room door. I need you to understand what tomorrow could do to this city. Maya waited. If Cross is right, we have a chief accused of taking restricted information before taking office. If you're right, we have senior command personnel connected to a commercial fraud operation and an attempt to frame the new chief. Either way, the headlines will be ugly. That isn't a reason to hide the evidence. I didn't say hide it. You're thinking about delaying the public presentation. Hayes walked toward the window. I'm thinking about whether we should finish the forensic review before turning this into a citywide spectacle. Maya understood the concern. Hayes had businesses calling about the Riverton Plaza investigation, union representatives asking whether command decisions were politically motivated, and council members worried about public confidence. But Maya also understood what delay would give Cross. Time. Mayor, Cross has already used internal systems to build a criminal referral against me. She controls the administrative office that created the records. She controls the people who handle the records. If tomorrow becomes another closed review, she'll challenge every piece of outside evidence one at a time, while the official version remains hers. Hayes turned back. And if we broadcast it, then everyone sees the same source material at the same time. That can damage innocent people too, which is why we present only authenticated evidence and say only what it proves. Hayes was silent. Maya continued. Justice that depends on good publicity isn't justice. It's public relations. The mayor looked down at the notes in her hand. I spent most of today hearing people tell me how much Riverton has to lose. We do have a lot to lose. That sounds different from what you just said. It isn't. The department has credibility to lose. The city has contracts to lose. People have careers to lose. None of that makes a false record safer. Hayes finally nodded. All right. The evidence goes into the public session. Maya let out a slow breath. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. By tomorrow afternoon, half the city may hate both of us. That would still be better than half the city believing something we knew was false. Hayes gave her a tired smile. You always this easy to work with? I haven't had the job long enough to know. The next morning, Maya ate breakfast at Henry's kitchen table before leaving for City Hall. He placed a plate of eggs and toast in front of her, then sat across from her with coffee. "You're not wearing the uniform. I'm suspended. I know. My badge is still with the city. I know that too." Maya looked at him. "You planning to say anything I don't know?" Henry took a drink. "You don't need the title in that room." Maya looked down at the plain navy jacket she had chosen. "No, but I intend to earn the right to wear it again." Henry nodded. "That sounds better." Maya finished her coffee and checked the sealed evidence list once more. The memory card remained with outside counsel. The body camera files remained with the vendor and commission. The mall video remained under third-party preservation. The original digital logs were in the examiner's custody. None of it sat inside Riverton Police Headquarters. That was the point. Across town, Cross arrived at City Hall, carrying 2 binders and a laptop. She had prepared every document she intended to use against Maya. The access logs were indexed by time. Mercer's statement was highlighted. The confidential envelope had been photographed where it was found. Department policy sections had been marked with tabs. Cross expected Maya to argue that the records were false. She was prepared to answer that accusation with procedure, documentation, and the fact that the official systems still supported her version. Mercer arrived with counsel and spoke to no one. Bennett and Shaw entered separately and sat several rows apart. Rachel Kim arrived with her attorney. At Riverton Plaza, the scheduled commerce forum began setting up before the stores reached full morning traffic. Large digital displays near the central atrium showed the city's seal, while technicians waited for the City Hall feed. Shortly before 9, Maya entered the council chamber. She passed Mercer without speaking. Cross watched her approach the front table. Her eyes moved briefly to Maya's jacket. No badge. Maya took her seat beside outside counsel and placed only a legal pad and pen in front of her. Mayor Hayes entered moments later. The council members settled. The Oversight Commission representatives opened their files. A technician at the rear of the chamber raised one hand. "Public stream is ready." Hayes looked toward the camera. "Bring it live." The red broadcast light turned on. Across Riverton Plaza, the city seal disappeared from the digital screens, and the council chamber appeared in its place. Council President Harold Benton called the emergency session to order and reminded everyone that the hearing was not a criminal trial. Its purpose was to determine whether Maya's appointment should remain suspended, while the allegations against her were referred for further investigation. Assistant Chief Evelyn Cross was called first. She walked to the witness table with one binder under her arm and another already waiting beside her attorney. Her movements were controlled, and when she began speaking, she avoided any personal criticism of Maya. "This matter is not about rank, personality, or disagreement within command," Cross said. "It is about whether the same evidence standards apply to every member of the Riverton Police Department, including the chief." Several council members nodded. Maya sat beside outside counsel and wrote nothing. Cross opened the first binder. She presented the access logs, showing Maya's executive credentials entering restricted commercial crime files after she took office. The records included file numbers linked to the same commercial property cases found on Rachel Kim's memory card. "These are system-generated audit records," Cross explained. "They show access under Chief Williams' account to material she had no assigned investigative role in reviewing." A councilwoman leaned toward her microphone. "Could those records have been created automatically when her command permissions were activated?" Cross answered without hesitation. "Routine permissions mapping can generate administrative activity, but these entries are recorded as specific file access and document requests. That distinction is why I reported them instead of dismissing them as onboarding errors." She moved to the next document. A restricted records request appeared under Maya's authority, then an audit exception. Then photographs of the confidential envelope discovered inside Maya's office. Cross enlarged one image on the chamber screen. "This document belongs to an internal commercial investigation. It was found in a secured cabinet within the chief's office." Maya's attorney stood. For accuracy, Chief Williams immediately denied ever seeing that envelope and requested outside preservation when it was discovered. Cross turned toward him. "That is correct." Her willingness to acknowledge the fact made her sound more credible. She was not arguing that Maya had confessed. She was arguing that the official evidence required investigation. Cross then introduced Mercer's written statement. According to him, the Riverton Plaza incident had begun after command received information that confidential department material had been improperly removed. Mercer stated that Maya refused repeated requests to identify the location of the device, and that his plan to move her to the commercial evidence annex was part of an authorized recovery operation. One councilman adjusted his glasses. Assistant Chief, are you saying Sergeant Mercer knew she was the incoming chief? No. Nothing in his report indicates that. Then why wasn't ordinary booking used? Cross paused only long enough to appear careful. The stated purpose was recovery of sensitive material, rather than routine criminal processing. Whether Sergeant Mercer followed every procedure correctly is a separate question, and should be reviewed separately. Mayor Hayes sat several seats away and watched without speaking. Maya could see the problem. Cross had not defended every action Mercer took. She did not need to. She only had to make the official record look reasonable enough that Maya's suspension seemed justified. Cross continued. She presented the policy governing restricted commercial investigation material, then the confidentiality provisions that Rachel Kim was accused of violating at Riverton Plaza. The concern, Cross said, is that Miss Kim transferred restricted information to Miss Williams before Miss Williams formally assumed office, after which related department records were accessed under the chief's credentials. A business owner seated in the public gallery whispered to the man beside him. Several reporters began typing. At Riverton Plaza, the same testimony played across the large screens in the central atrium. Rachel stood near her attorney and watched Cross describe the memory card without ever saying what was actually on it. Back in the council chamber, Cross reached her conclusion. If Chief Williams is innocent of wrongdoing, an independent review will establish that. Administrative leave does not determine guilt. It protects the integrity of the review. Council President Benton looked toward Maya. Chief Williams, do you wish to respond? Maya stood, but did not approach the witness table. I have 3 questions for Assistant Chief Cross. Cross remained seated. Maya began with the first. Assistant Chief, are the records you presented today the complete official basis for the criminal referral requested against me? Cross glanced briefly at her attorney. Yes. Not part of the basis. The complete basis. Yes. Maya nodded. Second question. Do you stand by the authenticity of the access logs, the records request, and the confidential material found in my office? I stand by their status as official department records requiring investigation. That wasn't my question. Cross looked directly at her. Yes. I stand by their authenticity. Maya turned slightly toward the clerk. Please make sure that answer is entered clearly. The clerk nodded. Maya asked the third question. Do you stand by Sergeant Mercer's written statement that his actions at Riverton Plaza were part of a lawful attempt to recover department property? Cross took a moment before answering. I stand by the department's current position that his statement should be evaluated as part of the official record. Maya remained still. Is that a yes? Cross's attorney leaned toward her, but Cross answered before he spoke. Yes. Thank you. Maya sat down. One council member frowned, apparently expecting a longer defense. Benton looked toward Maya's attorney. Is that all? For now, the attorney said. Cross returned to her table. She leaned toward her counsel and spoke too quietly for the public microphones. She has nothing. Her attorney did not answer. At the Oversight Commission table, Margaret Sloan closed one folder and opened another. Mr. President, before this body proceeds to argument on the suspension, the Commission requests permission to introduce independently preserved source evidence relevant to the records just presented. Cross looked toward Sloan. Benton asked, has the material been authenticated? Yes. Has counsel for the city received the preservation documentation? The city attorney checked the packet in front of him. We received it this morning. Cross turned toward him. What material? He did not answer immediately. Sloan continued. The Commission has verified files obtained directly from third-party custodians outside Riverton Police Department's administrative systems. We request that they be entered into the public record in source order. Benton looked toward the broadcast technician. Proceed. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as the large presentation screen changed. Across town, the screens inside Riverton Plaza changed at the same moment. The first image was not Maya's face or Mercer's report. It was a black screen containing a file identifier, a timestamp, and a verification notice. Original vendor ingest verified. For the first time that morning, Evelyn Cross stopped looking at Maya and looked at the screen. The first video opened with Bennett's body camera view of Maya's sedan in the Riverton Plaza parking lot. The chamber became quiet as Mercer's recorded voice came through the speakers. "Hand over the memory card you just took." Council President Benton raised his eyes from the transcript in front of him. The video continued. Maya had not mentioned a memory card. No officer had found one. No formal allegation had been read to her. Bennett sat several rows behind Maya, watching his own camera angle on the large screen. The recording showed Maya asking for the legal basis of the detention, then asking whether the officers had a warrant. It showed her cooperating while Bennett placed her in handcuffs. Her voice came through clearly. "I am not resisting." Then Mercer ordered the search of her handbag. When nothing was found, his next words played across the chamber. "The drive Rachel Kim gave you." A council member leaned toward the microphone. Was Rachel Kim's name included in the original dispatch record? Margaret Sloan answered from the Oversight Commission table. No. Was a memory card mentioned? No. Cross remained still. The recording continued until Mercer ordered Maya moved away from the public area. Too many people. Then came the service corridor. Maya asked for an evidence receipt. Mercer refused. Bennett asked about central booking. Mercer refused again. Finally, Mercer's command came through. "Turn that off." The video showed Bennett looking down at his body camera. "Policy requires continuous recording during detention." Mercer repeated the order. Bennett refused. A murmur moved through the chamber before Benton called for quiet. Cross leaned toward her attorney. "That still doesn't establish ownership of the device." Her attorney spoke softly. "Not yet." Sloan stood. The commission would now like to introduce the second body camera file. Shaw's recording began from a wider angle inside the service area. The audio was clearer than Bennett's. Mercer had walked several yards away with his phone. "It's not in the bag." A pause followed. "No, she isn't talking." Another pause. "I can move her." Everyone in the chamber listened. Then Mercer said the words that changed the room. "Yes, before the motorcade arrives." The video stopped. Benton looked toward Mercer. "Sergeant, why was the arrival of the mayor's motorcade relevant to an evidence recovery operation?" Mercer's attorney touched his arm before he could answer. "My client will reserve comment until the full evidence is presented." Benton nodded. "Noted." Sloan displayed the phone metadata associated with the call. The number Mercer had contacted belonged to the Executive Command Suite, assigned to Assistant Chief Cross's administrative office. Cross raised one hand. "A call to my office does not establish who answered it or what was discussed." Maya remained seated. Sloan responded. "That is correct. The commission is not claiming otherwise." Cross looked toward Maya, perhaps expecting an accusation. None came. The next file appeared. This one came from the advertising company that operated Riverton Plaza's digital displays. The timestamp began several minutes before Maya left the building. One camera showed Mercer's patrol vehicle already positioned near the parking area. Another showed a mall manager standing inside the glass entrance and watching the corridor. When Maya appeared, the manager raised his arm and pointed toward her. Bennett and Shaw moved before any new radio dispatch occurred. The sequence lasted less than a minute. Benton asked, "So the officers were already waiting?" The advertising company's custodian, appearing by video link, answered, "That is what our archived footage shows." "Can mall management alter this archive?" "No. They can access traffic reports, but the original video is stored on our cloud system." "Was this footage preserved before the city requested it?" "Yes. The system retained it automatically." Maya finally wrote something on her legal pad. Cross watched her. The commission moved to the digital access records. An independent forensic examiner approached the witness table and displayed a timeline. The department's report says Chief Williams accessed restricted commercial files through her executive account. Our examination found that the activity did not originate from her assigned laptop or personal authentication token. Cross's attorney stood. "Administrative systems routinely generate access events during account management." "That is true," the examiner said. Cross looked more comfortable. Then he continued, "The relevant events were created through an administrative service account and labeled under Chief Williams's identity. Benton asked, "Could Chief Williams have used that service account herself? Not with the credentials assigned to her." The examiner enlarged one timestamp. "This event is especially significant. It occurred 47 minutes after Chief Williams surrendered her department laptop, access card, and phone. Her personal credentials had already been disabled." The room went quiet again. Cross leaned forward. "Could an automated process have generated it?" "Yes. So this does not prove anyone deliberately framed her." "No. It proves Chief Williams could not have personally created the access event attributed to her." Maya looked toward Cross but said nothing. The restraint made Cross's defense sound weaker than an argument would have. Sloan introduced one more video. A hallway camera inside police headquarters showed a staff member from Cross's administrative unit approaching Maya's office after normal hours with a sealed brown envelope. The employee entered. Less than 2 minutes later, she left without it. The next morning, the same type of envelope had been discovered inside Maya's office and logged as confidential investigative material. Cross spoke before anyone questioned her. "My administrative staff routinely deliver restricted files to executive offices." Sloan nodded. "Do those deliveries require a document control entry?" "Yes." "Was one created for this delivery?" Cross looked at the document in front of her. "I would need to review the full records." Sloan held up a certified response from records. "We already did. There is no delivery entry." Cross's expression did not change, but she stopped taking notes. At Riverton Plaza, Rachel Kim watched the hearing on one of the large atrium screens. Her attorney stood beside her. The video feed showed Cross sitting behind her binders, while reporters in the council chamber filled page after page. Rachel's attorney turned to her. "They're going to call you next." Rachel nodded. "You understand what they'll ask?" "Yes. They'll challenge how you obtained the files." "I know. And they'll say you gave department property to Maya before she became chief." Rachel looked up at the screen. "That's the part they can't make true." Back at City Hall, Sloan called her name. Rachel entered the chamber carrying no files, only her identification and a prepared chain of custody statement. After she was sworn in, Sloan asked the first question. "Miss Kim, did the memory card you gave Maya Williams contain records taken from Riverton Police Department?" Rachel answered without hesitation. "No." "Where did those records come from?" "Riverton Plaza's commercial systems." Cross looked up. Rachel continued. "I copied them myself. They were mall inventory records, insurance records, vendor records, and internal loss prevention data. They were never police department property." For the first time that morning, the central claim Mercer had used to justify Maya's detention was no longer supported by the source of the evidence itself. Rachel remained at the witness table while the commission's forensic accountant prepared the next presentation. Council President Benton looked toward him. "Please keep this simple. We have several different systems in evidence now, and I want the public to understand the sequence." The accountant nodded and placed a diagram on the main screen. At its core, the pattern is straightforward. High-value merchandise was reported missing from businesses inside Riverton Plaza. Insurance claims were then filed and paid. After that, Riverton police records showed portions of the same merchandise as recovered during commercial enforcement operations. He advanced the screen. The next section displayed property numbers beside warehouse transfer codes. The problem begins here. The recovered merchandise does not consistently appear in the department's normal property intake system. Instead, several batches were routed to a private warehouse through administrative exceptions. A council member leaned forward. "Who owned the warehouse?" "A regional logistics company, contracted by vendors connected to Riverton Plaza." "And what happened to the merchandise after it arrived?" The accountant opened a second chart. Serial numbers from several recovered items later appear in resale records from another commercial vendor. Benton frowned. "The same goods?" "Yes. So the merchandise is reported stolen. Insurance pays the loss. Police records show recovery. And then the goods are sold again? That is what the records indicate." The chamber became restless. At Riverton Plaza, shoppers who had been walking through the central atrium began stopping beneath the large screens. Several store managers moved closer as the same financial chain appeared above them. The accountant continued. Payments from the resale vendors then connect to security consulting invoices, administrative service contracts, and commercial protection agreements involving companies that had existing relationships with the mall. Maya watched without moving. This was the part Cross had tried hardest to prevent anyone from examining, not the memory card itself, the pattern inside it. The accountant displayed another table. Sergeant Mercer's commercial patrol unit appears repeatedly in the police recovery certifications. Mercer's attorney stood immediately. Appearance on a unit certification does not prove Sergeant Mercer personally diverted merchandise. Correct, the accountant said. We are not making that claim. The attorney sat. The next screen listed administrative exceptions. Whenever a recovery record lacked normal property intake, there was often an exception authorizing alternate handling or expedited closure. Benton asked, who approved those exceptions? Many were processed through the office of Assistant Chief Evelyn Cross. Cross raised one hand. Administrative approval does not establish knowledge of criminal conduct. The accountant turned toward her. That is correct. Cross looked toward the counsel. My office handled thousands of records, contracts, and exceptions. The fact that my administrative unit approved paperwork connected to a later disputed transaction does not mean I knew a crime was being committed. Her attorney nodded beside her. It was the strongest argument she had made all morning, and several council members appeared to accept the distinction. Maya did too. She did not want Cross blamed because her name appeared near suspicious records. She wanted the evidence to show what Cross had actually done. Sloan looked toward the forensic examiner. Please move to the authorization certificate. The examiner returned to the witness table and opened a digital record report. One batch transfer differs from the others. It was not approved through a general administrative account. He enlarged the entry. It was approved, using Assistant Chief Cross's personal authentication token. Cross's attorney stood. Tokens can be compromised. Yes, the examiner said. They can be used by another person if credentials are exposed. Yes. So the presence of the token does not prove Assistant Chief Cross personally authorized this transfer. Not by itself. Cross remained composed. The examiner changed the screen again. This is why we compared the authentication event with building access and workstation activity. A timeline appeared. Cross's access badge entered the executive suite that evening. Minutes later, her assigned workstation became active. Then the personal authentication token approved the warehouse transfer. The workstation remained active for several more minutes. Cross's access badge recorded her departure afterward. Benton looked toward the examiner. Could someone else have used the workstation while Assistant Chief Cross was physically present? It is possible. Can you determine who was at the keyboard? No. Cross spoke immediately. Then this still does not establish personal intent. The examiner nodded. Intent is outside my role. I can only establish the sequence. Maya watched Cross carefully. Even now, Cross would not overreact. She would force everyone else to prove every step. That discipline was part of what had allowed the system to survive. Sloan turned toward Mercer. Sergeant Mercer, your written statement says the Riverton Plaza detention was part of a lawful effort to recover department property. We now have testimony that the memory card originated from mall systems, not police systems. Do you wish to revise your statement? Mercer spoke only after consulting his attorney. No. I acted on instructions provided to me. Written instructions? No. Who gave those instructions? His attorney leaned toward the microphone. Sergeant Mercer will not answer further questions about command communications without advice concerning possible criminal exposure. Benton nodded. That is his right. Sloan introduced the phone metadata again. The call Mercer made during Maya's detention had gone to Cross's executive office. No one claimed the metadata proved what Cross said. It no longer needed to stand alone. The pre-planned stop, the attempt to avoid central booking, the false ownership claim, the administrative service account, the planted document, the commercial transfer pattern, and Cross's personal authentication token now existed in the same public record. Benton called a brief recess so counsel could review the commission's recommendations. Maya remained at her table. Mayor Hayes approached quietly. You knew the financial pattern was this extensive? I knew enough to know the memory card mattered. I didn't know how far it went until the outside review connected the records. Hayes looked toward Cross. She still hasn't admitted anything. She doesn't have to. When the session resumed, Benton allowed Maya a short statement. She stood without approaching the podium. They did not need to destroy every piece of evidence. They only needed to control where it was stored, who was allowed to see it, and which version became official first. She looked toward the broadcast camera. Today, they lost that control. Then she sat down. No applause followed. Benton did not allow it, and Maya did not want it. The council moved to formal action. Cross was placed on immediate administrative suspension pending independent state review. Mercer was suspended from duty pending investigation and possible disciplinary action. All records connected to the commercial property cases were placed under an external preservation order. Contracts associated with the private warehouse and implicated vendors were temporarily frozen. A full forensic audit was authorized outside Riverton Police Command. Finally, the city attorney withdrew the criminal referral against Maya after acknowledging that the key access records and ownership claims used to support it could no longer be treated as reliable. Benton looked directly at Maya. The administrative leave order will be reviewed for reversal effective immediately. Maya nodded once. She did not look toward Cross. She did not look toward Mercer. On the screens inside Riverton Plaza, the hearing remained live as the council moved to its final procedural matters. The same public place where Mercer had tried to move Maya away from witnesses had become the place where every piece of evidence was now visible. For the first time since Friday, no one in that room controlled the story alone. The following morning, Maya returned to City Hall in the same navy jacket she had worn to the hearing. She had not been told to wear her uniform, and she had not asked whether her badge would be returned. Mayor Rebecca Hayes had simply called and said, "Come by before you go anywhere else." When Maya entered the mayor's office, Hayes was standing beside the conference table. A small black case rested in front of her. "Sit down," Hayes said. Maya remained standing. "I'm fine here." Hayes opened the case and removed Maya's badge. "The administrative leave has been reversed. The city attorney has withdrawn the referral against you, and the council has confirmed your reinstatement effective this morning." She placed the badge on the table between them. "Riverton needs its chief back." Maya looked at it but did not reach for it. Hayes waited. "I expected you to be happier." "I'm relieved." "That isn't the same thing." "No." Hayes moved closer. "Cross is suspended. Mercer is suspended. State investigators are taking over the commercial fraud case. The warehouse contracts are frozen. What else are you waiting for?" Maya finally looked at her. "I'm not coming back just to rebuild the same structure with different names on the doors." Hayes frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I want less power." That answer caught the mayor off guard. "You were just framed because you didn't have enough control." "No. I was framed because too much control was concentrated in offices nobody outside the department could properly examine." Maya touched the edge of the badge case but left the badge where it was. Cross-controlled administrative access, professional standards, records policy, and too much of the evidence process. She didn't have to erase every file because she could influence which version became official first. "So, what are you proposing?" "An independent integrity office outside police command." Hayes pulled out a chair and sat. "Outside your command too?" "Especially mine." Maya explained the structure she wanted. Complaints involving evidence, manipulation, commercial corruption, or executive misconduct would no longer remain solely inside the department. Original body camera files would be mirrored automatically to an outside preservation system. Administrative access logs would be duplicated beyond police control. Whistleblowers would have a protected reporting channel that did not require approval from their chain of command. Hayes listened without interrupting. "And the chief can't shut it down?" she asked. "No." "Can the chief block an investigation?" "No." "Can the chief delete evidence?" "No." Hayes leaned back. "You understand. You're proposing an office that could investigate you. That's the point." For the first time that morning, the mayor smiled. "All right." Maya picked up the badge. "I'll come back." Later that day, she walked into Riverton Police Headquarters with it pinned above her left pocket. The front desk officer stood when she entered. "Morning, Chief." "Morning." No applause followed her through the building, and Maya preferred it that way. People watched her pass, some with relief, some with uncertainty. and a few with the discomfort of officers who now understood that the department they trusted had been used to protect something illegal. Her first meeting was with Noah Bennett. He entered her office and stood until Maya pointed toward the chair. "Sit down." He did. Maya folded her hands on the desk. "Keeping your camera on mattered." Bennett nodded. "I know. So did the time you spent hesitating before that." He looked at her. "I know that too. I'm not promoting you for what happened. I wasn't expecting you to." "Good. Doing the right thing isn't a favor to me." Bennett remained quiet. Maya continued. "But I'm creating a working group on evidence integrity. I want patrol officers involved, not just commanders and attorneys. You'll be one of them." "Why me?" "Because you know what it feels like when policy says one thing, and the person standing over you says another." Bennett considered that before answering. "I'd like to do it." "Then do it well." Daniel Shaw received a formal commendation for preserving his body camera recording according to policy. Maya kept the recognition simple. Shaw had not exposed the entire network or confronted senior command. He had kept his camera running when it would have been easier to obey Mercer. That had been enough to preserve something important. Rachel Kim was cleared by Riverton Plaza's corporate investigators several weeks later. Her suspension ended, and the mall agreed to participate in the city's new commercial integrity program. Rachel became the primary business liaison to the independent office, ensuring that evidence involving mall losses would be preserved outside any single company or police system. State investigators continued reviewing the warehouse network, Mercer's actions, Cross's authorizations, and the contracts linked to the resale operation. Maya did not interfere. She had learned enough to know that accountability meant allowing an independent process to work, even when she believed she already understood the truth. Several months later, she returned to Riverton Plaza for the public launch of the new Office of Independent Police Integrity. The large digital screens in the central atrium displayed a simple message: "Riverton Independent Integrity Portal now live." Mayor Hayes joined Maya near the same entrance she had used. The afternoon Mercer stopped her. "The first time I came here," Hayes said, "you were sitting in the back of a patrol car." Maya looked toward the parking area. That day, everybody thought the problem was one memory card. And now, Maya turned toward the public screen. "Now, nobody has to trust one person to keep the next one safe." Hayes nodded and joined the city officials waiting nearby. Maya remained where she was for another moment. Mercer had believed the truth could be confiscated, misplaced, or buried inside an evidence system. The memory card proved him wrong. But Maya had learned something more important from everything that followed. Justice was never truly safe when it depended on one powerful person choosing to protect it. So she returned as chief of police and built a system strong enough to watch even her. The lesson from Maya Williams's story is simple, but important. Justice cannot depend on one powerful person choosing to do the right thing. Truth needs protection. Accountability needs independence. And sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is refuse to stay silent when a system asks them to look the other way. Thank you so much for staying with us and listening all the way to the end of this story. Your time and attention truly mean a lot to us. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. Was the story easy to follow? Did the pacing, emotion, and way the events unfolded keep you interested? Please share your feedback so we can continue improving the way we tell these stories. And if you have a powerful, meaningful, or unforgettable story of your own, we warmly invite you to share it with the channel. Your story may inspire a future episode and help someone else feel seen, heard, or encouraged. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.